2020. I begin with the call to order, and Madam Clerk, if you'd proceed with the roll call and the protocols, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to provide a very short review of the protocols for electronic participation in this special council meeting. Voting for this meeting will be conducted verbally. For procedural votes that do not require a recorded vote, the chair or I will call for any objections. If you have an objection, please indicate your name and your objection. If no objections are stated, the motion will be deemed to be adopted. For recorded votes, I will call upon each member in alphabetical order based on last name. I will confirm the vote for each member. If you do not respond when called upon to vote, I will call your name a second time. If you do not respond to the second call, you will be recorded as abstaining from the vote, and your vote will count in the negative as a nay vote. If you're participating electronically and are leaving the meeting, please send an email to council@peelregion.ca to confirm that you are leaving the meeting. If you leave the meeting for any votes thereafter, you will be marked absent. I'll now begin with roll call. Mayor Brown?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Carlson?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Crombie?
I'm here, and I just want to be sure you recognized me in the last meeting. Maybe I logged in a bit late, but I was present.
Okay, thank you. We did not do a roll call for the last meeting, but thank you. Councillor Demerla indicated that she would join later. Councillor Dasco?
Hi there, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Dillon?
I am here.
Thank you. Councillor Downey?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Fonseca?
Hi, yes, I'm here, and same goes for me from the morning's meeting. I was on, but I logged in, I think, 2 minutes late. So hopefully I'll be recorded as being present. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini?
Present, and I also was on this morning's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Groves?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Innes?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Kovac?
Good afternoon. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mahoney?
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McFadden?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Medeiros?
Present, and also recognize I was there this morning as well.
Thank you. Councillor Paleshi?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Parrish?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Raz?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Sato?
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Santos?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Sinclair? Thank you. Councillor Starr?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Thompson?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Vicente?
Present.
Thank you.
And that brings us to our Indigenous land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather and which the region of Peel operates is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples inhabited and cared for this land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabe, Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe Chippewa peoples, the land that is also home to the Métis, and most recently, the territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. Okay, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Hearing none. Approval of the minutes. Right, we're right past that because we're on to the next session and they're not required at this time. Okay, approval of the agenda. Madam Clerk, a couple of items, the additional items that you've noted, why don't I read those out? So in addition to the items, we have several more. They would be the following: that the agenda for the December 17, 2020 Special Regional Council meeting include a communication from the town of Caledon regarding the composition of Regional Council in Peel to be dealt with under Communications, item 9.4. And further, that the agenda for the December 17, 2020 Special Regional Council meeting include a communication from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding the composition of Regional Council in Peel to be dealt with under Communications 9.5. And further, that the agenda for the the December 17, 2020 special regional council meeting included communication from Councillor Sinclair regarding the composition of regional council in Peel to be dealt with under communications items 9.6. And further, that the agenda for the December 17, 2020 special regional council meeting be approved as amended, as moved by Councillor Sinclair, as seconded by Councillor Raz. Madam Clerk, do you require a recorded vote? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? That carries. The only other that I have in terms of how we are dealing with the, the agenda. We had an in-camera, my colleagues will recall last week, that was rather time-sensitive and is increasingly time-sensitive now. And so what we wanted to do so that we can deal with the matter and know that it's been dealt with, it is suggested from staff, and I agree entirely, that we move in camera now to deal with our scheduled in-camera item, deal with that, then come back for the main meeting. So, Madam Clerk, do I need a motion to move in camera? If you would, please.
Moved by Councillor Downey and seconded by Councillor Sato, that council proceed in camera to consider reports related to the following: an update regarding contract negotiations, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with contractual or other negotiations. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that carries. Thank you.
Very good. So over to the clerk's office to make sure that we've made our way in camera. Okay, we're good to go. We're back in open session. We are dealing with the in-camera report. It was moved by Councillor Starr. Madam Clerk, over to you for a seconder in the vote.
Thank you. I've got the motion as moved by Councillor Starr and seconded by Mayor Thompson, that the Commissioner of Finance and Chief Financial Officer and the Commissioner of Public Works be authorized in accordance with the direction given in connection with the in-camera report listed as item 13.1 on the December 17, 2020 Special Regional Council agenda. And further, that the directions be approved and voted upon in accordance with Section 239(6)B of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. And I'll begin with the vote. Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Mayor Brown in favor. Councillor Carlson.
Yes.
Councillor Carlson in favor. Mayor Crombie.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Crombie in favor. Councillor Demerla.
Yes.
Councillor Demerla in favor. Councillor Dasco.
Yes.
Councillor Dasco in favor. Councillor Dillon.
Yep.
Councillor Dillon in favor. Councillor Downey.
In favor.
Councillor Downey in favor. Councillor Fonseca.
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Fonseca in favor. Councillor Fortini.
In favor, please.
Councillor Fortini in favor. Councillor Groves.
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Groves in favor. Councillor Innes.
In favor.
Councillor Innes in favor. Councillor Kovac.
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Kovac in favor. Councillor Mahoney.
Yes.
Councillor Mahoney in favor. Councillor McFadden.
Yes, in favor.
Councillor McFadden in favor. Councillor Medeiros.
In favor.
Councillor Medeiros in favor. Councillor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi in favor. Councillor Parrish.
Yes.
Councillor Parrish in favor. Councillor Raz.
Yes.
Councillor Raz in favor. Councillor Sato.
Yes.
Councillor Sato in favor. Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Councillor Santos in favor. Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Sinclair in favor. Thank you. Councillor Starr.
In favor.
Councillor Starr in favor. Mayor Thompson.
In favor?
Mayor Thompson in favor. Councillor Vicente.
Yes.
Councillor Vicente in favor, and that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings me down to delegation 6-1, Azad Goyat Vales of Humber and Brampton, Brampton First Foundation. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Before I get, we said we were going to tidy up the bylaw on that one first. So on the matter we've just dealt with, we want to finalize it with the bylaw so it's signed, sealed, and delivered. So that too moved by Councillor Starr, seconded by Mayor Thompson, that a bylaw 84-2020 to confirm the proceeding of Regional Council to this point for the special meeting held on December 17, 2020, and to authorize the execution of documents in accordance with the Region of Peel bylaws related thereto, be given the required number of reading, taken as read, signed by the regional chair and deputy regional clerk, and the appropriate seal be affixed thereto, remembering everyone that once this has been dealt with, anything we do from this point on, we need to do this again. But that's just to finalize this so it's signed, sealed, and delivered, and staff can carry on as directed. Madam Clerk, do you need a recorded vote? Any objections? All those in favor? Any objections? So that is done. Thank you to all for that, and thank you to staff. So that brings me back to 6.1, delegations. Azad Goyat, Vales of Humber and Brampton First Foundation expressing support for a proposed bylaw to change the composition of regional council. Azad.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, and you've got 5 minutes, sir. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. Our city, our pride, Brampton first. Hello and good afternoon, Peel. Thank you so much for providing opportunity for delegation on the behalf of Vales of Humber community and Brampton First Foundation at the special regional meeting on composition restructuring and more balanced approach for fair share on representation. Special thank you our Mayor Patrick Brown and dedicated team at Peel Region. Without their tireless efforts, our fair share and strong representation advocacy was not possible at this platform. We all know Brampton is the second fastest growing city in Canada. Brampton's population has outpaced that of Mississauga and Caledon. Brampton currently represents 44% of Peel population, but has just only 29% voice at region. Is this fair for my Brampton? No, not at all. The current 2020 representation per elected representative. The current representation, Brampton has a population of 681,600, and with the 7 seats, the voice is only representing 99,371 elected representative. Mississauga, with a population of 788,000, plus with 12 seats, is 65,744. And Caledon, a population of 78,300 only, with 5 seats, is 15,660. Peel population is 1,548,880 with 24 seats. With the proposed 2022 representation, this representation is per elected representative of the population. Brampton with 9 seats would be 75,000 plus. Mississauga with 12 seats would be 65,000 plus. Caledon with 3 seats will be still 26,100. Peel region will stay same. Also with the proposed 2 more seats, our proud city Brampton will get only 30% age representation only, 38% only. And though our population representation is 44, so 44% population and 38% representation even after this change. We are strong voice for fair share for all, but with no additional cost to taxpayers. Demanding additional seats from province would create additional burden on taxpayer, resulting less resources and services for our fellow Peel resident. Change of law is nature. Restructuring always changes the composition. Someone will gain, someone will have to lose. This is not the end of life. This regulation allows the changes every 2 years. This change is not permanent. There is a possibility down the change more changes. Let's work together for strong and united Peel. Our respected fellow Caledonians must not be disappointed. Let's we all work together for strong and united Peel despite this change and difference in opinion. Stronger democracy representation for all. Time for change. Democracy is represented and judged mainly by the population and not just by the land mass. That's why we have more electoral representation in urban cities. Strongly, at least 2 more voices for Brampton at Peel Regional Council will strong Brampton voice for major decisions for affordable housing, health, community safety, social services, and more for Brampton.
Azad, one minute left, please.
Thank you so much. Our city, our pride, Brampton first. It's a time for change, nothing for disappointment or anybody. It's a fair share. Thank you so much, and God bless our Brampton. God bless our Peel. Thank you.
Azad, thank you for your presentation. There are no questions. If I could have receipt, moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councillor Medeiros. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. That brings me to staff presentations. There are none. Reports 8.1 is just here for receipt. We'll be dealing with the bylaw shortly. So if I could have moving and receipt of 8.1 as moved by, sorry? Oh, I just see Mayor Thompson's just come on my list. Mayor Thompson. Mayor Thompson, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, if I could have some words before the vote, I'd appreciate it. Is this the time to do it?
Mayor Thompson, you can speak now. I know you have item 9.4 on the agenda as well, communication. You can ask us to hold that, or we can speak as we move the bylaw later. I leave it up to you.
I'll just, I think it is the report, yes, I'll gladly move it as we go forward. And if I could speak for a second, I would really appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You're speaking to the report. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say for the record, I'm opposed to this in the strongest way. To the actions being taken today to remove seats from Caledon, all but silence our voice at the table. So let's be clear, it isn't about fair representation because we all know the difference between urban and rural representation. It's all about power and control. At this moment, Brampton, Mississauga already have more than enough power over Caledon. Going forward, the two will be able to use the power to control development and planning population that you're not accountable to in any way. And that's unheard of in democracy. Peel Region is a union of three governments. It exists to serve the balance of the three governments. Representation by population is being used as an excuse to redefine and recast what Peel is. From this day forward, no one will be able to pretend that Peel Region is an upper-tier municipality that exists to serve three-tier governments. Caledon's most basic interests have been dismissed and its voice of partnership has been gutted. Everyone at this council knows that Caledon has always stood in support for Brampton to have fair representation and have all their councillors at the regional table. At this council, over the past 2 terms, there's been an unbelievable amount of interest in development in Caledon, and I think this is the problem. So much so that the Premier and even the ministers asked me why members of this council, even from Mississauga, are calling about them planning matters and developer issues in Caledon. I can honestly say I've never called the Premier about Mississauga or a Brampton issue. A faulty argument given for this most highly suspicious amount of interest for the taxpayers of Mississauga and Brampton will be paying for growth in Caledon. That isn't so, and it never has been. Caledon has always believed growth will pay for growth. In doing this, Caledon has always had front-end servicing cost agreements and will continue to do so. So let's get it straight for the record. We're not burdening Brampton and Mississauga on this. The town of Caledon's growth trajectory will be the largest in the province over the next 30 years, and everyone wants a piece of Caledon. Well, I'm going to tell you, as you know, Caledon is not for sale, and it's far from over. When this council votes to confirm this bylaw, to cut the seats, I will not participate out of protest. I'm asking my councillor colleagues, Caledon colleagues at this table to join me and stand up for Caledon and not support this bylaw. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and I will take that as your comments to the bylaw as well as having spoken to it already. Councillor Downey.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Based on this report, I'd like to present the following motion, which I will read. Whereas the Regional Municipality of Peel was incorporated in 1974 to provide a wide range of cost-effective programs and services over a larger geographical area that enhance our community's health and safety, social and cultural development, agricultural, environment, conservation, infrastructure, and transportation systems. And whereas the letter dated December 14th from the minister states that the region of Peel is granted an extension on finding a local resolution to the governance model for Peel. And whereas Section 6 of the Municipal Act assumes that communities, rural or urban, are homogeneous in nature, which does not address factors such as growth rate, industry, employment, demographics, social conditions, agriculture, and conservation. And whereas these communities may not have reflective representation at Peel Region Council by virtue of the Act and the body that designed it. And whereas the Region of Peel is the most diverse municipality in Ontario, if not Canada, with strong cultural roots from around the world, this population is comprised of 51.5% immigrants, 13% recent immigrants, and 62.3% visible minorities who face a variety of settlement challenges from food security to housing, employment, mental health, addictions, and systemic discrimination. And whereas the Region of Peel has worked through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, Board of Health, Peel Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee, Peel Food Security Charter, and Human Services to address such matters as food security, family violence, discrimination, mental health, addictions, and systemic racism, it is clear that reflective representation at the table is needed in order to balance and rectify the challenges of Peel's communities. And whereas the Region of Peel has worked diligently under the pillars of living, thriving, and leading to address these challenges and create opportunities for its population despite chronic underfunding in the areas of health and human services. The disparity gap that exists continues to grow. COVID-19 has accelerated that growth at an alarming rate, exposing the need for greater attention from this government and our provincial and federal partners. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Region of Peel utilize the extension date of March 31st granted by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and further to have staff review governance within the Region of Peel with a broader approach regarding equal and effective representation and report back on the fundamental challenges of the Peel community, prioritizing marginalized and racialized communities, including the areas of Brampton, Caledon, and Mississauga that are facing challenges including, but not limited to, access to food security and healthcare, homelessness, community policing, mental health and addictions, and systemic discrimination, with the measure of those issues included, but not limited to, growth rate, industry, employment, demographics, social conditions, agriculture, and conservation. And further, that a second special council meeting in the new year be held to provide an opportunity for staff to report back on options regarding regional council composition for consideration based on the aforementioned aspects and those presented at the public meeting held on December 17th, 2020.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Downey's motion? I see Mayor Thompson. Very good. That is the motion before me. Just procedurally, everyone, how I will be proceeding is that's duly before me, moved and seconded. If anybody wishes to speak to it, you may. I'm then going to call the vote. Otherwise, the only other motion I have is the bylaw itself that I need duly moved and seconded, which is the only other item on my agenda other than communications. So the matter before the chair now is moved by Councillor Downey, seconded by Mayor Thompson, is the resolution and motion you just heard. Do I have any speakers to that motion? Mayor Brown. I see Mayor Brown. Please put yourselves on the list accordingly. I see Councillor Sato and whomever else. Mayor Brown.
I wanted to speak to the main motion, not the referencing to defer or to delay. I'm not sure what the correct wording is. So should I speak now or should I wait until this is voted on?
Yeah, you should wait till it's voted on because you want to speak to the main bylaw, and I will hold you then, and I will put you down to speak at that time, Mayor Brown, recognizing I still need a mover and a seconder for that. Okay, thank you. Councillor Sato.
Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a motion in front of us to actually read and refer to, but I'm a little bewildered as to how this motion has anything to do with the number of people on regional council and representation. It talks a lot about services and homelessness and diversity, which is stuff that we're working with all the time. But I didn't hear one part. I won't be supporting it, but I just don't see what it has to do with regional representation. So I mean, it kind of popped up out of the blue. So am I assuming that the actual motion is one of deferral or referral? Because I didn't hear that in the motion. So I'm really confused as to what this is here for and why we didn't get a copy in writing.
To the mover of the motion, Councillor Downey, would you like to clarify?
Thank you, Chair. Was provided clear as of 2 minutes ago. And just to clarify, the residents of Peel deserve equal and effective representation. That is measured by more than population. If you're measuring only on bodies, you are assuming that that population is homogeneous, that we all live the same life, that we all walk the same walk. And I think that Councillor Sato, you know better than anybody, being involved with the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, that is not reflective of Peel. And I think the rest of people to walk the walk when it comes to true, effective, and equal representation in Peel for the betterment of the residents of Peel.
Okay, and speaking to the motion, Mr. Chair, representation by population does cover that and does it very well. And the municipalities and the councillors with the greater population should have that representation on regional council. And those with smaller populations and much fewer people to represent should not have more than double the level of voting as the rest of us have. So, yeah, great motion, well written, but I don't think it's appropriate today. Thank you.
I'm not actually just talking about the numbers around the table. What I'm talking about is that there are multiple layers that should be addressed and should be used to measure that. If it is reviewed and it comes back that Councillor Parrish's ward is measured and needs more representation, then fantastic. That's the point. It is very clear, and Caledon has always supported additional representation in Brampton, but there is more to measure than just bodies.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Downey. That counts as both of you spoken twice, so I have to move on. I have no other speakers on my list, so on the motion presented by Councillor Downey and Mayor Thompson, I am calling the vote now. Madam Clerk, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and this does require a recorded vote, so I'll begin with Mayor Brown.
No.
Mayor Brown opposed. Councillor Carlson?
No.
Councillor Carlson opposed. Mayor Crombie?
No.
Mayor Crombie opposed. Councillor Demrilla?
No.
Councillor Demrilla opposed. Councillor Dasco?
No.
Councillor Dasco opposed. Councillor Dillon?
Opposed.
Councillor Dillon opposed. Councillor Downey?
In favor.
And Councillor Downey in favor. Councillor Fonseca?
No.
Councillor Fonseca opposed. Councillor Fortini?
No.
Councillor Fortini opposed. Councillor Groves?
Yes.
Councillor Groves in favor. Councillor Innes?
In favor.
Councillor Innes in favor. Councillor Kovac?
No.
Councillor Kovac opposed. Councillor Mahoney?
No.
Councillor Mahoney opposed. Councillor McFadden?
No.
Councillor McFadden opposed. Councillor Medeiros?
No.
Councillor Medeiros opposed. Councillor Paleshi?
No.
Councillor Paleshi opposed. Councillor Parrish?
No.
Councillor Parrish opposed. Councillor Raz?
No.
Councillor Raz opposed. Councillor Sato?
No.
Councillor Sato opposed. Councillor Santos?
No.
Councillor Santos opposed. Councillor Sinclair?
In favor.
Councillor Sinclair in favor. Councillor Starr?
No.
Councillor Starr opposed. Mayor Thompson?
In favor?
Mayor Thompson in favor. Councillor Vicente?
No.
Councillor Vicente opposed, and that motion is lost.
The motion loses. Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings me down to communications. Now, I did not have a specific line item as a consent agenda, but may I suggest that we deal with 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 4, 5, and 6 on consent. I will take them in turn. Item 9.1 on consent. Communication 9.2 on consent. 9.3. 9.4, 9.5, and 9.6. All on consent, Madam Clerk. What do you require? Just a mover and a seconder for those all on consent. I see Councillor Starr, seconded by Councillor Raz. All those in favor? Any opposed? Those are all on consent. Thank you very much. I don't think there's other business or other councillor inquiries, but I will ask. Seeing none, I have no notices of, sorry, an inquiry, go ahead.
I do have an inquiry.
Go ahead.
Over the last few days, I've had a lot of my residents, they've expressed some concerns with regards to trucks queuing up on Highway 50. They've been there from Albion Vaughan Road all the way up to Rutherford Road, making that area very unsafe for my residents. I think all of you around this table know that this has been an ongoing problem on Highway 50. In fact, I think Highway 50 is a death trap. I try to avoid it as much as I can, but unfortunately, a lot of my constituents, they travel on Highway 50 and they really don't feel safe. So my request to you, Mr. Chair, and I don't know if it's just direction or if I need a motion, but I'm asking you because I think we really need to, this is a multi-jurisdictional road, so we need participation of our neighbors. So I'm asking you, Mr. Chair, if you would be so kind to set up a meeting with ourselves, our staff, York Region, City of Vaughan, their chairman, their mayor, their staff, and Peel Region and York Region and Caledon OPP at the table, and also the province of Ontario. I think this is something that the Premier at this council table and at Caledon Council, we've passed resolution asking the Premier to extend Highway 427 to Highway 9 at least, just to remove some of these this type of traffic from our neighborhoods. So I would like someone from the Premier's office as well as MTO involved in this, because I don't want to see any more fatalities on that road. I have many of my residents who travel along there and they are not feeling safe. And in the same token, the CP rail yard continues to expand and the infrastructure is not keeping up. So I don't know.
Councillor Groves, I think all your comments are very well put. Dare I say that in the last 5 weeks, I've driven the road 3 or 4 times and would suggest it is horrific during peak and non-peak times. So your observations are mine, though I think you see them more often. Staff has suggested, and I think this is very appropriate, that they refer the matter to Public Works so that we can fashion a report that speaks to all of the moving parts that you've mentioned, and then that report becomes the basis upon which the chair would be very happy to reach out to our friends across the border, all the pertinent ones, be there the regional chairman, the mayor, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get everybody in a room because there are a lot of moving parts. You've mentioned the 427. Mayor Thompson's mentioned other cross-boundary roads that need to be addressed. I think all of which is very, very appropriate. So Councillor Groves, if we can refer the matter to Public Works to fashion the proper report that speaks to what it is that we want to move forward, and that'll be the basis with which I as chair would be happy, along with the committee and all my colleagues, to move forward if that's satisfactory to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Any other inquiries or other business from councillors? Hearing none. Notices of motion, I have none. What that brings me to is the bylaw. I have bylaw 12.1 as moved by Mayor Brown. I require a seconder for that bylaw. I think I had Councillor Parrish. So that bylaw is before me and I will read the bylaw. The bylaw reads that the bylaw listed on the December 17, 2020 special regional council agenda, being bylaw 83-2020, be given the required number of reading, taken as read, signed by the regional chair and the deputy regional clerk, and the corporate seal be affixed thereto. Okay, and the additional bylaw is here as well. Speakers to the bylaw. Councillor Groves. Annette, did you wish to speak to the bylaw, or are you just a residual on my list from the previous subject?
Thank you. No, I wish to speak to the bylaw. Sorry.
Please proceed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this really is a topic that's been before us many times over the years, and it's here again. Just a couple of points, Mr. Chair, that I would like to make. When it was brought to us on November 26th, I thought that having three representation from Caledon was better than having one, because the original motion really would have left us with one person representing Caledon, and I didn't think that that was fair, and I didn't think that was appropriate. So I fought for the lesser of the two evils, where we ended up with three as opposed to one. However, my community, well, they were not very happy because they felt that I betrayed Caledon and I sold Caledon out. In fact, I don't agree with that. I certainly did not betray Caledon. I felt that I did what I could because the support in the room from both the other two municipalities were overwhelming. So at what point I felt that I made the right decision. And I just want to clear some things here, because there were a number of times these things were mentioned. At the October 10th Policy and Procedures Committee meeting, my understanding, I'm not on that committee, but I read the minutes from that meeting, and my understanding is that this was discussed at the October 10th Policy and Procedures Committee meeting. This was not brought back to Caledon, and we do have members on that committee. It was never brought back to us for discussion, and really, in hindsight, it should have been brought back to us. In the meantime, I think Brampton and Mississauga, they brought it back to their council, and they've had their discussion, and we didn't. So when the motion came on the 26th, we were surprised by it. Because we were not aware that this was coming, but in any case, Caledon should have discussed this, and we should have been prepared with a position on November 26th. The other thing that I am a little confused about is at our special council meeting on November 30th, we passed a resolution asking the minister for an extension, which I supported, because if we needed more time to discuss this, I'm all in favor of that. Then we had a meeting on December 14th, another special council meeting. The minister actually issued the letter dated December 15th, granting us the extension. December 14th, we had another special council meeting, and that motion was rescinded. Councillor Downey brought a motion today, and in that motion, she's asking for that we respect the timeline and have that additional time. But at our council meeting on December 14th, we rescinded the motion saying we don't need any more time, and we passed another motion asking the minister to pass a regulation or enact a regulation to allow us with our 5. So it's a little confusing here, and there's so many moving parts to this that it is a little bit overwhelming. And in any case, since then, and having said all that, we've had a number of people delegate at our special council meeting on November 30th. We've had a lot of correspondence from the residents there. You've heard them this morning, Mr. Chair. They've delegated, or they spoke at the public meeting this morning. And they also have sent in a lot of written communication. So in respecting my residents and their opinion and and their belief that we should have 5 members representing Caledon, I unfortunately will not be supporting the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Medeiros. Councillor Medeiros, I can't hear you. You are on my list if you would like to speak.
Yeah, my apologies, Chair. At this time, it was a mistake that I requested to speak.
Very good. Last call for any speakers to the bylaw and the motion. Mayor Brown, I don't see you on my list. Did you wish to speak?
Yes, I have my hand raised, and you said you had kept me on the list.
And I apologize. You're absolutely correct. And as the mover of the motion, you get to speak last as of now. Please proceed. My apologies. You're right.
Well, I wanted to say, I know we've had an opportunity for everyone to share their perspectives, but I wanted to say very clearly that it is unequitable, the current dynamic in the region appeal, and people may be surprised. I don't know why they'd be surprised that that Brampton is pushing for fair representation. This has been ongoing since 2003. So this, to call it a walk-on when it's been a 17-year crusade, simply to have our democratic traditions respected. Representation by population is a democratic tradition in Canada. And if it was based on landmass, then none of it would have dozens of MPs. That's representation by population is a fundamental principle, and it's sure for everyone. It's sure convenient to say, okay, I'm fine with the status quo continuing if you're overrepresented. It's easy to be in favor of being overrepresented, but how do you feel in Brampton? How would you feel having such how would you feel being a Brampton resident where your voice is worth 1/6 of a Caledon voice? How do you feel? We're underrepresented in comparison to Mississauga as well. Why are our residents in Brampton worth less than residents in Mississauga and Caledon? And the fact that you want us to pretend that this isn't the case and not advocate and not fight for our residents, frankly, I'm a little shocked. We all know the figures. Right now, a Brampton councillor represents 97,000 residents. In Caledon, it's 15,000. In Mississauga, it's 65,000. This is not even getting us to 65,000. This is only getting us to 75,000. Mississauga is still so Caledon will still be worth 3 times. A Caledon resident will still be worth 3 times what a Brampton resident's voice is worth. And frankly, I think if you look at, I was asked yesterday by the Globe and Mail, and I think it has merit. They said, not only should this be about representation in terms of our democratic traditions, but they said, how does your community feel? How does your racialized community feel, given the fact that 70% of Brampton is visible minorities, that they're not reflected? There are challenges there, and that was a Globe reporter, Oliver Moore, that asked me that question. But I thought it was a very fair question. And so, if we were going to actually have what Brampton wanted 4 seats. We're not getting what we want. This is a compromise that we thought was fair. Fair for Brampton would be 4. This was meant to show friendship and collaboration with our other partners in the Region of Peel. And I know I read the comments of Mayor Thompson in the paper today where he said, this may be an underhanded attempt by Mississauga to break up the Region of Peel. One of the best ways to break up the Region of Peel is to give Brampton no voice. Right now, we've been the biggest advocates for maintaining the Region of Peel intact. I was the one that talked about how Bill Davis created this, understanding the greater use that regional governance can have. Well, let me be very clear. If we don't have representation by population, if we don't have a voice, if we're asked to simply contribute tax dollars and not actually have our voice, then I can tell you the calls for us not to be part of the Region of Peel will grow louder. I've had a number of them in the last weeks from senior officials in the city of Brampton, former elected officials, former statesmen in our city who have said, if you can't even get half of what you deserve and you're getting protests about getting half of what you deserve, why do you even want to be part of this? Why do you want to contribute your tax dollars to an organization that you don't have a democratic representation at? So this is a step in the right direction. This is not what we wanted. We wanted to have true representation by population. So, we're putting water in our wine, and this is a snail progress towards giving our residents true representation. But it's a step in the right direction, and I really hope that we can have folks around this table rally behind this. If you want to make the Region of Peel work, you can't do so by removing the voice of our electors. The numbers speak for themselves. And let me be very clear, if there was huge growth in Caledon, you would get additional seats. If there was huge growth in Mississauga, they would get additional seats. It's based on the numbers. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is why should a resident in Brampton be worth less than a resident in Mississauga and Caledon? I can't explain that to my residents. I can't justify that to our residents. And the fact that people are asking us to simply accept the status quo after 17 years of pushing for this, after 17 years to say, maybe wait another 4 years. This is what's got us into this pickle in the first place, because we were too polite in Brampton, that we allowed what was due to this city to be trampled on and ignored. And sorry if I sound frustrated, but asking for half of what we are entitled and then being told it's too much, it's unbelievable.
Mayor Brown, you've come
Chair.
up to about 5 minutes. If you you just rounded out your comments then, just at the wire. Thank you. My list is Santos, Parish, Groves, Mayor Crombie. Councillor Santos.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mayor Brown, for your very impassioned speech and your words. I 100% agree with you and would like to acknowledge and thank all of our colleagues who are still sitting around this table having this discussion as we speak. And I also want to thank Councillor Groves, because this is about doing the right thing, especially for our city in Brampton, where we are constantly seeing inequity and lack of our fair share at all levels of government. And so I really want to thank my colleagues around the table for standing up for finally what is equitable and what is right. And indeed, as Mayor Brown had said, still a compromise and making sure that Caledon still has seats at the table. I will share that just next door in Halton Region, in 1995, 1996, they went through the exact same thing, where Halton Hills had about 5 seats to the region, and they had to decrease it by 3. And I believe the former FCM president, Councillor Deputy Mayor Clark Somerville, is right next door, who represents now one of those 3 seats. And I believe things are going fine. And they are an efficient government at that regional government. In fact, Councillor Somerville has 3 conservation areas that he represents in his large geographic area, but also recognizes that his population relative to some of the more urban areas within that region are a lot higher. And they have accepted the fact that they have 3 seats now instead of 5, because it was the right thing to do at that time. And so thank you again to all of our colleagues who are supporting this motion going forward. Thank you for standing up for Brampton, finally, for our fair share at the regional table. And I do support the passing of this bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Parish.
Yes, thank you. I had a great long speech prepared, Mayor Brown did an excellent job, so I don't have to, I cut out 99% of my materials. I want to congratulate the councillors from Brampton for accepting the compromise, because what you probably haven't thought through, or you have thought it through and have accepted, is this decision cannot be changed now until the 2030 election. So you've done a compromise that's going to last 10 years. We don't get to review it every year like every election as we did before. This year it was changed quietly. I assume the letter from Minister Clark holds, even though I suspect there'll be great efforts to try and get him to withdraw it, but he would look most like he's jumping through the Caledon hoops. So I doubt with his professional ethics, he would want to switch this around. So we have this to address the fact that even though our intentions were clear on November 26th, that by the time this bylaw is passed, it will be actually 2020. So I think it's important that we keep the council at 24 seats. The idea of going to 32 last time was ridiculous. I think Premier Ford will probably appreciate this, as he's going into a battle with Toronto in the courts over reducing them to 25 seats in the mayor. So I think keeping the council at a workable size is important. I don't think there was a snowball's chance in hell that Mississauga would have wanted to add more seats. I have probably geographically the biggest region, or the biggest ward in Mississauga, and I wouldn't split it for love nor money. I love every inch of it. But to have a Caledon seat with 9,000 people, and I have 92,000 people, and I actually put into the regional budget from my ward 13.4% of all the revenue that comes from taxes. I'm happy with my little kingdom. I'm also happy with keeping the council at the size it is right now. And it's only fair that Brampton is willing to take 2 more seats rather than going for 4. And I think we have to thank Annette for voting with us on that one, because I think she understood that she helped stave off something that would have been even worse for Caledon, because I'm pretty sure the Mississauga crew and the Brampton crew were seriously looking at the shifting of the 4 seats. Also, if you look at comments from the Mowat Centre, a voice on public policy in Ontario, they don't just talk about representation by population, but they talk about one person, one vote, and votes on a governing body ideally carrying an equal weight. So the 9,000 people with 1 councillor in Caledon and the 92,000 people in my ward definitely don't have an equal voice on this council. So I think this is a good step in the right direction. I admire the patience of Brampton. I admire the bravery of Annette Groves, who managed to work out a compromise. And I hope Caledon will roll up their sleeves and get back to work with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Groves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to respond to Mayor Brown's very passionate speech for Brampton. Caledon has always supported Brampton having more seats, and I think we made that very clear. And I think over the years we did that as well. So we have no issues in supporting Brampton having additional seats. I guess what it came down to is members around the table are not willing to have more than 24 members at regional council. So here we are, and again, Caledon doesn't see me as a hero. They see me as somebody who, with my vote on November 26th, betrayed Caledon. At the time, I felt that that was the right thing, because I certainly didn't want to see 4 of Caledon councillors removed. So, Mr. Chair, I just wanted that for the record, that we do support Brampton. We have supported Brampton in the past, and we continue to support them, because we do recognize that their population, their councillors are dealing with a large number of constituents. And so I just wanted that for the record. So, and just in response to Mayor Brown's
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Sato.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I sat and listened to the Caledon comments, and I read the letters, and you know, it's very hard not to laugh, because Mississauga, before we were given 50% at the region, and you recall this, Mr. Chair, because you've lived through it with me, we had gone 2 or 3 times to the region to try and get a minimum of 50%. At that time, we were paying about 70% of the levy. We had 70% of the population. And several times, both Brampton and Caledon stood up and walked out of the room, so that one was so that we could get equalized assessment. You recall that one. I think it was Peter Robertson was the mayor of Brampton at the time. And, you know, the number of times that this happened to Mississauga, because God forbid that we would ever even get 50% of the vote at the region appeal. While Caledon sat there with 5 seats, Councillor Carlson and I had 110,000 residents each in our wards for more than a term of office. And until we, the 2 of us, split our wards into 2, we were representing 110,000 people. And I can tell you how insulted I felt when I went up to the region and I was sitting beside a councillor, who was actually Carol Seglins at the time. And I was representing 110,000 people and I had 1 vote. And I looked around the room and I saw 5 Caledon representatives who were each representing about 5,000 or 6,000 people, maybe a few more than that, maybe 9,000. The province recognized that there should be representation by population when they established the Greater Toronto Area Services Board. And at that time, there was a representative, the mayor of every municipality was on that board. It was huge. I think we had about 50 people. The mayor of all the municipalities were on the board. Mississauga was given 1 extra seat on the board. We were the only one in Peel that was. Toronto had extra, but we were the only other municipality in the entire GTA area that was given the extra seat. And city council appointed me to go with Mayor McCallion, and I sat on that board. And, you know, it showed that the province recognized that Mississauga had the greater population and deserved a greater voice around that table. So the province has recognized it. You know, this is not new coming forward. We've been talking, Brampton has been asking for more since before Justice Adams did his review. And, you know, I look at that review when the mayor of Caledon at the time and the mayor of Brampton, Mayor Morrison and Mayor Fennell, ganged up against Mississauga. And there were things done at the Region of Peel against the city of Mississauga, the presentation that went down to Justice Adams. And you recall that one, Nando. So, you know, we've been there. We've done that. And this is long, long overdue. Caledon has enjoyed way more representation, way more control, and, you know, getting the defining vote for so many years, even voting on the Peel Regional Police budget, when Peel Regional Police don't provide service in their community. You know, it's been totally unfair for so long. And Mayor Brown, I think you said it really well. There is no argument, there is no valid argument that Caledon has brought forward ever to justify them having 5 seats on regional council. And had you stuck to your guns to have your 10, I told you before I would have supported you on that. But you've agreed that Caledon regained the 3 seats. I think we just have to do this. And regardless of the letters that were sent to the ministry, and I would really, I'd be appalled, quite honestly, if the minister did not listen to the majority of the Region of Peel. And Councillor Santos mentioned about Halton doing it. Durham took seats away from the town of Oshawa. I think it was 2 terms ago, and reduced the number there.
Councillor Sato, you're just coming on 5 minutes. If you're wrapping up, please.
I'm finished, Mr. Chair.
Okay, right on. Very good. Thank you. Right on 5 minutes. Thank you. Mayor Crombie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think Mayor Brown has articulated the argument very well. I pressed my button only to clear up some misinformation that I read in the press this morning in that Globe and Mail article everyone is referring to. Apparently, there is some sort of secret agenda that if we push this forward, Mississauga will somehow have our own single-tier city. And we all know that is not the case, that has been put to rest and put to bed, and the province is not going forward with any kind of regional review. And so we have to make this work right here at the region. It is dysfunctional, and this is to address that dysfunction. I do resent Mayor Thompson calling us spoiled brats, petulant teenagers for not getting our way. Let us remember that we are in Mississauga. We're not the ones that brought this motion forward, that Brampton did, but we do support Brampton. In my 6 years as mayor, we have been trying to address this issue of better representation for Brampton, and finally, we have a council that agrees to the changes and amendments we have proposed that would not add additional politicians. There is no appetite anywhere for additional politicians, not at the province, not at Queen's Park, and not among our residents. I would be aghast to go forward and ask Mississauga to support 4 more councillors, and I'm sure Mayor Brown would in Brampton as well. So this is the right solution. Let's be honest. Caledon will grow by 40,000 residents over the next 10 years. Next year in Mississauga, we're going to grow by 20,000 with the developments we have approved at Brightwater, at Lakeview, at Pinnacle, etc. So this is the right thing to do. We're not planning for 2040 or 2050. We're planning for today. And these changes more changes can be made in years to come for other elections. But this is the right thing to do today. So, I think here in Mississauga, we all support giving Brampton the representation they need. And it takes away from Caledon. That is a shame, but let's be honest. Where's my numbers here? Caledon votes are worth 4.5 times what a Mississauga councillor are. With the changes, they'll be still worth more than 2.5 times what a Mississauga councillors are. And that is with the change down to 3. So we are making small progress, but nonetheless progress. And it is not appropriate to be name-calling in the press, Mayor Thompson. This is fair, this is right, and this is how we all work together. Let's not be dysfunctional going forward. Let's apply democratic principles, which is representation by population, and let's all move forward together. So Mississauga will support Brampton's motion because it's the right thing to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That is my list. Madam Clerk, for the recorded vote on the resolution and bylaw, over to you, as moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councillor Parrish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Brown in favor. Councillor Carlson?
Yes.
Councillor Carlson in favor. Mayor Crombie?
Yes.
Mayor Crombie in favor. Councillor Demerla?
Yes.
Councillor Demerla in favor. Councillor Dasco?
Yes.
Councillor Dasco in favor. Councillor Dillon?
Yes.
Councillor Dillon in favor. Councillor Downey indicated that she was leaving the meeting in protest, so we'll mark her as absent. Councillor Fonseca?
Yes.
Councillor Fonseca in favor. Councillor Fortini?
Yes.
Councillor Fortini in favor. Councillor Groves?
No.
Councillor Groves opposed. Councillor Innes also indicated she was leaving in protest. We'll mark her absent. Councillor Kovac? Councillor Kovac? Councillor Mahoney?
Yes.
Councillor Mahoney in favor. Councillor McFadden?
Yes, in favor.
Councillor McFadden in favor. Councillor Medeiros?
Yes.
Councillor Medeiros in favor. Councillor Paleshi?
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi in favor. Councillor Parrish?
Yes.
Councillor Parrish in favor. Councillor Raz?
Yes.
Councillor Raz in favor. Councillor Sato?
Yes.
Councillor Sato in favor. Councillor Santos?
Yes.
Councillor Santos in favor. Councillor Sinclair also indicated he was leaving the meeting in protest, so we'll mark him absent. Councillor Starr?
In favor.
Councillor Starr in favor. Mayor Thompson indicated the same, so we'll mark him absent. Councillor Vicente?
Favor.
Councillor Vicente in favor.
Madam Clerk, it's Councillor Kovac. I was a yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kovac, I've marked you as in favor. And that motion carries.
The motion carries. Thank you. With that, I just have the formality of concluding the meeting. However, I've been asked by the regional solicitor that at the conclusion of that vote, he wanted to go in camera for a moment, I think, to speak to next steps. So, Madam Clerk, having been advised, and I let my colleagues know, at the request of the regional solicitor, he would like us to step back in camera. Madam Clerk, you've given me the resolution to speak to the matter that's just been voted on, to be clear. So I have a resolution here that council proceed in camera to consider the following. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for the purposes thereof. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? I see Councillor Starr and I see Councillor Fonseca. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk and staff, if you can move us into camera accordingly. So the motion to move out of camera, all those in favor? Any opposed? Very good. We're back in open session. And the last two items I have before me, the first is moved by Councillor Raz, seconded by Councillor Dasco, that the bylaw 85-2020 to confirm the proceedings of Regional Council at a special meeting held on December 17, 2020, and to authorize the execution of documents in accordance with the Region Appeal bylaws relating thereto, be given the required number of readings, taken as read, signed by the Regional Chair and the Deputy Regional Clerk, and the corporate seal be affixed thereto. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And my final motion, moved by Councillor Grove, seconded by Councillor Kovac, that the December 17, 2020 Special Regional Council meeting be adjourned. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. You all deserve a well-deserved rest, and I thank everybody for their civility today all day long under some challenging circumstances. Thank you all. Thank you to the staff again.